The Global Photonics Economic Forum in Malaga on October 1st and 2nd is nearly here. To prepare for some meaningful connections, we're sharing a series of long-form interviews called the Masters of Change in Global Photonics. Today we will speak with Tjark Tjin-A-Tsoi, the CEO of TNO in the Netherlands. He's taking part in the strategy panel discussion in Malaga, looking at how to match research lines with industry priorities. We get many questions from young photonics companies trying to scale up production to serve new markets and increase their turnover. They often look to their national research and technology organizations for help, either financial or technical. But markets are accelerating. Product life cycles have never been shorter. So how are the European RTOs adapting their strategy to answer the urgent questions from young photonics companies? So we recently got the chance to speak to Tjark at his home in the Netherlands and ask him first of all to introduce himself.
So I was born in Suriname, South America. My last name is a Chinese name because my grandfather on father's side was Chinese. Grandfather on mother's side was from India. So I'm quite mixed. I came to the Netherlands when I was 2 and have been there up until my PhD. When I got my PhD, I was a postdoc in Germany at the University of Munich. I got a PhD in theoretical physics, elementary particles. And after that, my first job was at Shell, actually, Shell Research in Amsterdam.
Wow. From Shell, he had various positions including the investment banking world, the Dutch Competition Authority, the Forensics Institute of the Netherlands, and 2 years at the Dutch company Sanquin, responsible for the National Blood Bank. And then came the call to lead TNO, the Dutch organization for applied research and technology. He started in June 2022. Looking back on it now, what do you think was the first thing he wanted to change?
The way it goes is that at first you have some general ideas of what you think might be needed. And then as you enter the organization and really get a larger picture of what is going on in this organization and also in its network of stakeholders, then this picture fills out and becomes very specific and concrete. So this has happened in the past 2 years. The first thing I noticed, but I knew this already because of the fact that I've been dealing with TNO off and on in my previous jobs, was that TNO was kind of like this sprawling, huge organization with lots and lots of different things that were going on. Yeah. And I thought that it's very important to create focus. As time went by, I came to realize and maybe articulate even more forcefully why this is necessary. And this goes then to the question that you already asked earlier about, so how do you view the future and the strategy of TNO, but also relating to perhaps the semicon field and the field of photonics, and also even the quantum, all these other fields as well. The analysis that we made was, and which is now very much part of what we are writing down and developing in our strategy, is that ever since, if you go back longer until the founding of TNO in 1932, at that point you had the United States with a huge lead over the rest of the world technologically, and you had Northwest Europe, which was sort of developed, England, Netherlands, Germany, of course. But everything was, of course, after the war, blown to bits and in Western Europe. And if you look at the entire world, China was really not a factor when it comes to technology. Japan, a little bit. Industrialization had taken root, but really it was not a match yet. Countries like South Korea or India or the Middle East, they were all no contender when it came to innovation and research and development. It was mostly United States and Northwestern Europe. Oh yeah, globalization was really not a thing yet. So many of these countries, all these countries, they were making more or less complete products from the ground up. And then, of course, when you fast forward several decades and you arrive where we are now, you see a very globalized economy, especially in high-tech field like semicon or quantum or photonics. Nobody in the world makes complete products anymore, from the design to the final product. It's global value chains what we're talking about.
I love that you're saying that. And that brings me to a tough question. How does TNO's vision for optics and photonics align with the views of the new right of center government in the Netherlands? Do you expect engineering talent from abroad to be restricted by the new coalition?
I don't think it will be restricted. There were many things said in the campaigns, but once the government starts and they have to really grapple with the issues, I think they will realize and recognize that these getting people from outside, getting talent from the outside from outside of the country into the Netherlands, and to have them help build this economy, that's a good thing. One of the problems in the Netherlands at the moment is that 20 years ago there was a movement in the Netherlands that said that, well, the industrialization of the Netherlands was really something that was in decline, and that we would become a total services economy. The result of that was that all kinds of study programs that were educating people with a technical and scientific background were kind of scaled down. And at the moment in the Netherlands, we educate the least, percentage-wise, the least people from the STEM fields and technical studies from when you compare to Europe, so, and probably even the world, because of this trend that has happened. This is part of the reason that when some of our industrial companies were being very successful internationally, as we're starting to hire people again, like ASML, we didn't have the people in-house so this is one of the reasons why we have to hire abroad. And even TNO, which is of course in essence a technology organization, is now hiring at between 25 and 40% of its people from outside of the Netherlands.
And it's not possible to maintain the leading position that you have now in quantum technologies, in space, and in semicon, only
Exactly.
with the people who are educated in the Netherlands, and not only
Exactly.
in the quantity, but also
Yeah.
you need to have a global knowledge. Now that
Exactly.
we mentioned these markets, there's something else I would like to ask you about. There have been some recent cuts on the Dutch National Growth Fund.
Yes.
And to be able to keep competing in quantum, space, and semicon with other regions, public funds are necessary. So how optimistic are you that the Netherlands can maintain a competitive edge in optics and photonics compared to other regions in Europe, US, or Asia?
It has to be replaced by other funding. And of course, we are also very successful in getting EU funding for a lot of the work that we do. Also, our defense budgets are going through the roof because of the war in Ukraine and the changes that has created in the policy regarding defense. And part of that money will also go to these new technologies that you were mentioning.
It is something very common in United States that the defense leads almost all the research lines. And I can see that this is something happening more and more in Europe, and that's part of your vision to also have these
Yes,
dual use technologies that can.
yes. I think that is something that will happen absolutely, certainly. Also, one of the things that which we have to realize, which is probably a specific Dutch problem, is that in the Netherlands we are really world leading when it comes to fundamental science, so basic science, the science that's being done at the universities, physics, chemistry, biology, etc., etc. We are very strong in that. In all indices, you can see that we have a strong position there, and even it's acknowledged by countries like South Korea, which are very, very innovative. The problem in the Netherlands is not the fundamental science. The problem is valorization, commercialization, and really creating economic value from these findings, from these investigations. That has been a problem for quite a while in the Netherlands. So I guess this new government will pay less money towards universities. Well, certainly they will do that. They will not give universities as much as they were giving, as the previous government would do. But they will probably support more the work that is being done to valorize and to really create new economic value from all the science. And that is already being seen right now. So they will probably interchange the more general funding that is the growth funds, kind of like general funding for let 1,000 flowers grow type of work, towards more focused development of companies and of innovations that are really making an impact in society.
One thing that I would like to ask you about, if the challenge is lack of valorization for very good research and innovation activities, how can TNO change that?
Yeah,
We have seen TNO SMEs creating some very interesting
yeah,
SMEs, and we also have seen cooperation with industry. But in the
yeah,
cooperation with industry, it was always very regionally focused.
yeah.
So I starting to see new things happening in TNO. What is your vision? How can we increase valorization?
So what TNO will do is several things. We will invest our own money more in startups, startups that have a good match, I would say, with TNO, the activities that we have, and kind of grow together and use our infrastructure and our knowledge that we have to help these companies scale up much faster than they are doing right now, because that's the problem. They are created, but they don't scale. So that's one. Of course, this means also focusing our organization more on the higher TRL scales, which is in the past, we had this kind of implicit philosophy that we go to TRL 6 and then we quit and then we leave it to the private sector, but that's not the way it works in practice. You have to continuously, even after 6, you have to work together with the private sector to make sure that they are able to do these scale-ups and use the technology the way it was intended to, or maybe change the technology such that scale problems can be solved and things like that, manufacturing problems can be solved. In the past, TNO was not so much interested in that type of technical problems. So the scaling problem, the manufacturing problem, and that is something that we will focus on more. Also, we, of course, as you know, we own or partially own around 40 different companies as TNO, and all of them are startups that we started ourselves.
If I look at the Netherlands alone, 1 in 6 person is expected to have heart failure at some stage in their life. And we are talking about 800 million euros just due to heart failure alone. At Icon Health, we are developing a medical wearable device used for monitoring heart failure patients. We are working very closely with the TNO in developing this technology. We aim to reduce the readmission at least by 25%. By shifting the care from in-hospital to at-home care, we'll be able to improve the quality of care, reduce the burden on the health system, and then also improve the quality of life for the patients.
But in the future, we will kind of guide and help and assist also startups that were not founded by TNO. And of course, one of the problems that then occurs is that these startups are often, they don't have a lot of cash, unless there's a very rich investor behind it, but they don't have a lot of cash. So for us to charge an hourly fee for our work, for them is a huge problem. So what we have now started to do is that we do the work, but then we don't ask for a cash fee, but for example, also can do deals where we in exchange for our work we get a share of the company, or so that we become a real participant in the company, or other arrangements are also possible. So this is also a new business model for TNO. But it's also very interesting for these companies, because they get the big TNO as a big partner, which also helps getting investors and to get better people, more people, because of course in the Netherlands it's very difficult to get the right people at the moment, whereas for TNO it's reasonably easy still to get people. because of our name recognition, right?
Yeah, helping companies scale up is I think the right goal for TNO. And right now we have this huge debate in Europe about the need for a photonics pilot line. I
Yeah.
would like to ask you what role TNO would play in setting up this pilot line, and what is your vision? What is your vision? What is necessary as pilot production of photonics to help European companies?
Yeah, so we are actually very much engaged in this pilot line discussion that is going on right now, and right at this moment, I cannot say too much about it because it's still in a sensitive phase. Let me put it like that. So everything I say about it might kind of change, have an influence on the process. But let me tell you that TNO will be very much involved in that, and is also committed to set up this pilot line in the Netherlands together with partners, and to do everything that we can to make it happen. We in Europe, we don't have a funding problem when it comes to the EU creating funds for projects like this, for programs like
Mhm,
this. The problem that we have in Europe, compared, for example, to the United States or even South Korea, is that we are not fast enough. We are too bureaucratic. We take too much time. We think things through like it's completely like it's something that you can predict in the beforehand exactly what will happen. We should just move faster. So this is something when you say what is needed for photonics pilot line, I would say, listen, we have the knowledge, it's there,
mhm,
especially in the Netherlands. At certain points, we have the knowledge. We have the parties that are the institutions, the companies. We have them. Everything's there. We have IMEC as a big partner of TNO. We have TNO. We have universities, Eindhoven, Twente, Delft. We have everything set up. What we need now is people that are really want to move fast and make quick decisions and start moving the ball forward. So this is what we are continuously saying in these discussions about this, is let's not talk about too much detail of exactly where it will go in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. We have to move because all these other parties in the world are moving very, very quickly now. And if we're not fast, this is really a race. Speed is the first. Second is, all right, so if you look at semicon, then you see, as I said in the beginning, you see a huge international, global value chain. What role is there for example, the Netherlands in this value chain? It's really not realistic to think that we will have a role in the entire value chain. I mean, the production of chips is done in South Korea and in especially at TSMC in Taiwan. That's 100%, almost 100% of the production of the most advanced chips. Lots of other work is done around the world, but the machines that make the chips, they are made by ASML. So
correct.
that's a tiny part of a very large value chain, but it's a crucial part. So one of the things that we are now focusing on in our strategy of TNO, and which is also now being rolled out in the Netherlands as a whole, because we have been advocating for it, is the theory of the control points. So what are the control points that we foresee in the different new value chains that will be set up, also in photonics and also in quantum and also in other technologies? What are those control points in which having a technological lead will really lead to a very strong position,
Mhm,
unassailable almost position in the value chain as a whole, uh, uh, and uh, and not be unrealistic about this. That, for example, huge fabs will be part of the Netherlands. It's probably not the way it will happen. So we will have to find our own sweet spot in this value chain, and this is one of the most difficult but important questions to ask.
You have been a very strategic partner of ASML for many, many years. Also,
Yes,
in very close collaboration with TNO and with the European Space Agencies and the ESA primes as well, but always with a Dutch ecosystem around. Is it time to also, similar to what IMEC is doing, setting up strategic partnerships with companies outside the Netherlands?
of course. Absolutely, and in several cases, but not necessarily. Well, we of course work very closely with Samsung,
Yeah.
and other companies as well. But as you say, these are, and part of the new strategy that I'm implementing is the international strategy,
Mhm.
and what you're saying is very much part of that. So I believe that an organization like TNO is not, in essence, is not a national only company. These are international value chains. So you have to be focused on the international companies that are relevant to these value chains. And so, yes, we work like ASML, or like I must say, IMEC, with many different partners from outside of the Netherlands, and we will do so, do more of that in the future.
In a meeting like the one that we're going to have in Malaga, in which you are going to be surrounded by the executives of the top companies worldwide from United States, from Asia, from Europe, companies like Jabil, like Nokia. What is your preferred future? What would you like the outcome of your participation at the Global Photonics Economic Forum? What would you like it to be?
I would like it to be kind of like a conduit for, or a kind of like a spark for us to become a partner in many of these international consortia to create this technology. And we of course have many. This technology still has many challenges from an R&D point of view. But for me, the main question is, where do we have our comparative advantage when it comes to TNO in the Netherlands? And I would like to also hear from them where they see our comparative advantage. Here again, these value chains will be international in the future, and no part of the world will probably create them from the ground up till the end product. It will be an international system, and for me, the important discussion to have is, where do we fit in? What is our role? Because if we all invest in the whole infrastructure, then it won't go anywhere. Some people will be very smart and start focusing on a certain field, and will then gain a position that is like the position of ASML now in the semicon field.
Final question, which is, I was at the IMEC Technology Forum at ITF in Antwerp a few months ago, and I saw there the presentation by Luc van der Hove, in which he said the strategic collaboration between IMEC, Fraunhofer, and TNO for the future of R&D in Europe. And I would like to ask you, out of the blue, what is your preferred future for the collaboration between the main RTOs in Europe?
The way I feel about the way the RTOs have been operating is that we really are all kind of doing our own thing. We collaborate, we do, but it's kind of like ad hoc. It's impossible to collaborate as a RTO community as a whole. So, for example, we have, I think, more than 350 RTOs in Europe. Well, that's the ones that are part of ERTO. But in my opinion, we should. That is not possible to coordinate among all those, and not all of them are also involved in this type of work. So when you look at photonics, yes, it's IMEC, it's TNO, and it's Fraunhofer. And not only are we some of the most advanced in this field, we are also very close together, right? If you look at Eindhoven, where most of this work is being done in the Netherlands, and also Twente, Enschede. If you look at that's very close to the German border, very, very close to the German, and it's also very close to Leuven. It's less than an hour's drive. So for me, it would be a very good thing if IMEC, TNO, and Fraunhofer would at a certain point formalize this cooperation and really start building jointly. Well, actually, a year or so ago, yes, I already signed with Luc van der Hove a collaboration agreement when it comes to integrated photonics. And we did that in The Hague. But that was kind of like a memorandum of understanding. At a certain point, of course, we would like to include Fraunhofer, especially with the new president, I think, who's a very good guy, nice guy. I think this will be possible. And then we hopefully will tightly integrate our work to create this is what I said before, this need for speed. And of course, when you're talking about IMEC, TNO, and Fraunhofer together, you are talking about almost maybe 40,000 scientists.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that's quite a powerhouse, right?
Yeah, indeed.
So I think close collaboration in this field is absolutely necessary to be able to withstand the enormous competition and pressure from especially Asia and the United States in the coming years when it comes to this field.
And with those thoughts from Tjark Tjin-A-Tsoi, we close another edition of Masters of Change in Photonics. Please like and subscribe, and join us again soon for more insights from Optica.